from economic development members? And we're waiting on Craig Hughes. While we're waiting on Craig Hughes, that's any updates from staff?
Yes, we've had several businesses that's opened up here in the town center. And then you have to excuse, one of them hadn't necessarily opened yet, but they're opening February the 10th. And it's the beer and wine sales. I cannot remember the name of it. I just went. There you go. He's also the owner of Simple Simon's Pizza. So that's going really well. We've had some development. Obviously, Craig Hughes should be here tonight to give us a presentation of our discussion the last couple of months for his new building coming in. Other than that, at this point, we had the board meeting today with the Chamber of Commerce. They have an interest in possibly hiring a new part-time person to come in and help making a marketing effort with new business owners around Kennedale and just the general area itself. But we had a good meeting today for that and look forward to working with the chamber a little bit better. That's all I got.
Any questions? We have no visitors at the present time, so we can skip B. I guess we can, while we're waiting on Mr. Hughes, we can go ahead and do C. Has the approval of the minutes for December 27th, our last meeting. Has anybody seen any changes or anything that needs to be noted on the minutes? We have a motion? All in favor of approving minutes? Unanimous? Daryl, would you like to talk about the Christmas financials?
I certainly would. Also, as you can see, you have the October and November financials for the EDC. Some of the glitches that we've had with our finance software, we have finally got it corrected. This should be our correct financials. I just received it probably about 30 minutes ago, so I truly haven't had a chance to look over it. But everything should be looking good. If you'll take a couple moments just to kind of look over it and see if there's anything that's glaring out for you. Update as far as on the Christmas financials, we're right at budget for that. There's a couple of expenditures that were on the report that shouldn't be there. So we're going over it with fine-tooth comb. Some of it is in reference to things that we needed to repair inside the park as far as electrical to get the tree working, things of that nature. But it wasn't necessarily just assigned to straight Christmas tree. It's things that the park will have as an improvement over the years, not just for the event itself. But we will have an accurate number for you next month for sure. Just far as on the approval of the financials as a whole, the Christmas financials is not needed.
As you said earlier, there's not a lot that you just received these like 30 minutes ago. There's two that are just glaring out to me right now. And on the front page, sales tax receivable for October, we had 70,216, but for November, it's blank. And also for accrued receivable, a couple more lines down for October, 74,000. And then under that one's also blank as well. Could you speak to that, or are we still drilling down in that as well?
If you, I can do it two different ways. I can have an explanation next month, or if needed, if you need it as of right now, I can send an email with maybe a little bit better explanation on it.
Do you need this?
Yeah, we can approve next month.
Yeah, they were just, you asked if there was anyone who had any questions or anything.
Yeah.
And as you said, you just received this 30 minutes ago, so I'm almost expecting there to be more of a drill down in this. And I mean, if the numbers weren't available at the time of printing, then yeah, we can definitely go ahead and take a look at it next month as well. That's fine.
It'll work.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous? Table the financial. All right. While Mr. Hughes is here, we will go back up for his update. The floor is yours, sir. Oh, Mr. Marcel's here.
From a previous developer. Been working hard. We built 2 buildings. Finally got those leased. We have one 3,000 square foot space available. I'm happy to say building 6 is finally 100% leased. The new building 7 is 100% leased, and then we got you all's building 1, the Dollar General building 100% leased, and we're looking to start building 3, which is kind of the tannish yellow building. And the rendering behind it is something that we're considering to build. And we've got tremendous interest in that. We've got commitments for 200% of the building, but they're just commitments, they're not leases. But hopefully those, of that 200% lease situation, or commitment situation, we could turn those into leases and at least start with the building, maybe with 50% pre-lease. So just here to answer any questions. We've got some bank financing. We're got our pricing in last night, as still need to go through that, but they seem to be, although it's very expensive, it's not too out of line where we can make deals. So we're confident to move forward, and just wanted to present that to you all and ask any questions of you, and hopefully get this thing started in the next 60 days or sooner.
Building 4 is not built, is it?
So the 2 sort of light blue are proposed. All the ones in dark blue are built. And then of course the kind of the tannish one is the one we'd like to start next.
And building 7's 100% leased?
Yes, sir.
And building 5, is it 100% leased?
No, that's the one, the old community med space. That's our
Okay.
nemesis. That's the only vacancy we have.
So there's
And
only one vacancy.
It's a fantastic space. It's just been, we've had a couple of vets looked at it. Recently, we had a vet look at it. And they were ready to sign the lease, and then they looked at their non-compete, and the non-compete said they had to be within 5 miles of their previous location, and we're 4.5 miles away. So it's, that one has just kind of been we've had tremendous interest. We've had a lot of pediatricians wanting to be next to the orthodont, the Kennedale dentist and orthodontics. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where it's got this beautiful, it was a former community med urgent care that went out of business, that just didn't have enough business here to support it. They went out of business. They paid rent for 2 years on an empty space, and then it's been vacant, 5 years. We've looked at, it's got all this beautiful office finish out, medical office finish out with patient files. I mean, it's move-in ready, and we probably could have leased it 5 times over if we had just gone in there and ripped all that out and just kind of bit the bullet. But, we kept thinking it's such a beautiful space. It seems a shame to do that. And we've had interest. It's not like we hadn't had interest, but just for whatever reason, they haven't been able to, sign on. But that's our only vacancy in the whole system.
I'm just gonna go and bring this up real quick because it is in the town center, E-Tron. The EDC spent some money to upgrade that building and to, put some kind of make it look brand new with LED lights and everything like that. Now, when that contract was brought to us, actually, it was brought to council. That's the first time I actually looked at it. I noticed that, they have a workable space of, I think it was 8,260 square feet of space that they can work with inside. Just out of curiosity, can you tell me why they're getting such a huge discount on their rent?
Well, they're paying in line with the rest of the tenants in that building.
But if I were to, just to say, if I were to actually rent out or not rent out, but yeah, let's just say rent out. If I were to rent out an 8,260 square foot house, that would cost anywhere between $8,000, $9,000 approximately a month. These guys are paying almost $3,000. And I understand a house versus a business is completely
Yeah,
different.
that's
Huge overhead and everything like that. But for almost 10,000 square feet, I don't think $3,000 is enough, in my opinion. I think it should have been more. And especially for a business that you can't even walk into, which we were told we would be able to do that for our citizens to shop in. Their doors are closed and it's just a shipping warehouse essentially.
in a 55-year-old building
Yeah,
that leaks,
okay.
that has a persistent roof leak.
Why hasn't it been fixed?
And the restrooms, it's just an old building. And the restrooms continually clog up just because it's an old building. I mean, it's a 55-year-old building, so you can't conflate a residential with a 55-year-old commercial space. First of all, it's in line with what everybody else in there is paying. So I'm not sure where the comparison is coming from, sir. Yes, sir. Dollar General. CES is a multi-billion-dollar company. It's an older building. It was in terrible shape when we took it over. And, we did what we needed to do to get, it had been 75% of that building had been vacant for 7 years prior to us coming in. 7 years. And we did what we did to get it leased. Was it, sometimes you just got to stop the bleeding.
Okay. Moving on to Dollar General. Can you tell me where we are in the lease on that?
Yeah, we've told them we're not going to renew them unless they clean their space up. They got to modernize it. And we just, based on your conversation with Mr. Hall.
When is their lease up, if I may ask?
I want to say, don't hold me to this, but I think it's October of this year.
Okay. And really quickly, how much in rent space is Chicken Express paying?
Well, that's, so we spent $200 a foot in tenant finish over and above the shell space. So that building costs $300 a square foot to build. So when you're leasing space, you got to get a return on the cost. So you got to, you got to get a return on $300 a foot. $400,000. So their rent's $20 a foot. 22 probably dollars a foot. Now,
Because I was under the impression that they weren't paying anything.
what would give you that impression?
Because that's what I was told by our former city manager. Is that not true?
Of course they're paying.
Okay, that's all I asked. I just wanted to clear that air, because I was under the impression that they weren't paying anything. And that came from our former city manager, so.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I don't either. That's why I asked.
I got two questions. I got two questions. Okay, you're saying that the Dollar General is, their lease is up this year, October, right?
Somewhere in that time frame, yes, sir.
And you're planning to start building 3? Right?
Yes.
Okay, now, my questions are this. Number one, what are the other options for Dollar General if their lease is not renewed because they refuse to upgrade or modernize? Do you plan on taking on the modernization of that building or the next tenant?
So our options are to renew them. And that's the building that you all own, as
Okay.
opposed to one that we own. So Kennedale Economic Development Corporation owns building 1, which is that building.
Okay,
So between the EDC and council, that's your decision what we do, first and foremost.
Okay.
I'm obviously here to be your advocate
Mhm.
and recommend, but what ultimately happens is y'all's decision. So I've heard that, and I agree 100% that their building has not been kept up to standards,
Mhm.
and they need to modernize it. They need to clean it up. They need to quit junking up the front of the building and over there by the trash dumpster. And we made that clear to them that if they want to renew, they gotta, shape up. And, the rent's gonna go up. If they decide not to do that, we're gonna get the space back, we'll release it to somebody else.
okay, and in reference to the building that James was referring to, that it's not being leased right now. If you build building 3, that means you'll have 2 buildings that are not leased, right?
No,
He's
no, we're-
referencing building
No,
5.
It's one room.
One room,
unit.
one unit out of building 5. Oh, okay, okay.
Well, whatever it is, it's just one unit, which was a doctor's office.
We have 3,000 square feet, 3,000 square feet of medical office space vacant right now in Kennedale Town Center.
Okay, okay.
And we're looking to build another, 12,000, and it's a different kind of building. So building 1 where Dollar General is what's considered kind of a bulk retail center. These are gonna be 1,000, 1,200, 3,000 foot spaces, totally different type of building. And it's gonna be 2023 cost. And this building's gonna cost $350 a square foot. The building 1 is probably worth about $75 a square foot. It's just an older building. It's just not. And it's bulk space, which, the bigger the space is gonna be, command less rent. People want brand new space. So, to conflict the two, excuse me, is just not appropriate.
When I'm looking at this rendering here, what corner should I be assuming this tower portion is on the map?
That's going to be on the east side. So it's going to be setting. So if you look, so this is the AT&T building to the north.
Yep.
It's going to be situated east to west.
Gotcha.
So the tower, you want the tower facing your
Mhm.
visibility to the east.
And I guess my next question is, what type of tenants are you looking for? Are you looking for 6 tenants that are retail? I mean, I'm assuming there looks to be 6 storefronts there. Is that, in a perfect world, that's what you would want?
So we're talking confidentially with Bravo Eats. They've outgrown their space. They're busting at the seams. They would like to, we're talking to them about taking 3,000 feet on the east end. We're talking to, again, confidentially, please, Cookie Crumbles. We're talking to a physical therapist. We're talking to a sit-down Mexican restaurant. And that's what would take. So this is designed, this 3,600 feet on the east end is designed for a sit-down restaurant. We desperately need a sit-down restaurant in Kennedale, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree.
Does it have to be Mexican food? Don't we have enough of them?
Well,
Thinking, Italian food would be good.
they generate a lot of sales tax. We're Italian, Mexican, we can do anything but chicken, barbecue, sandwiches. Because obviously we want to protect our current tenants. I'd love Italian, Chinese, I'm open.
There's this great space in North Richland Hills. It's called Nicky's. Go talk to them. They're on 26. Amazing.
We just need,
Blend in already there.
well, and that's one thing that we've talked about. We sort of inherited the 1920s railroad theme. And we've kind of embraced that. We built 2 more buildings along with that theme. Not what I would prefer, but that's kind of what we were given. I mean, we didn't have a choice. What we'd like to do is, there's going to be a trend, we're thinking of this as a kind of a transition building. You've got this nice building. It's not the railroad theme, so maybe it's some kind of a transition. I think Mr. Hull has suggested instead of this color brick, maybe we go a little reddish. Not what I would prefer, but we can work with that, something. But in order to get this thing leased and generate revenue for the city and us, frankly, we just need something that's modern.
Well, I mean, we could be modern, but we might be able to put certain trim areas in there where it blends in, but yet it don't all have to be there.
Sure. We're absolutely, that's reasonable. We're totally open to that. No, we're absolutely open to that.
So the building wouldn't take up this full footprint that we see on this map. This map, the building 3 actually includes this patio on the picture here. Is that correct?
So it would, well, yeah,
Because,
you're right.
I'm not, those parking spaces there will still remain there.
That's correct.
Okay.
So the eastern piece would be the
Correct.
patio.
Okay,
Yeah,
just making sure.
sorry.
Yep.
Yes. So this building actually has turned out to be a little bigger than I always thought this was 11,000 foot building. And actually, when we did the architectural renders, even with the patio, it's 12,500. So that helps the numbers, I mean, tremendously. About 10% bigger, so even with the patio.
So this basically states it's 11,115, if I'm not mistaken, and it's 12,500 after your render.
It's So what?
Wow,
Yeah,
thanks.
plus
Bigger.
plus patio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's still bigger.
Just. You know,
How did that happen?
I don't know.
Did you, I mean, has there been any changes in the parking spots or anything or how?
no, it's just. We inherited plans from an old developer from 2010 and we never really sat down and paid an architect to figure it out and they were wrong. Basically.
Okay.
When are you looking to have a construction date? I know you've applied for some of your permits. Can you explain some of that process where you're at with that?
Yeah, so we applied for a permit, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago, maybe. We've talked with the bank. She's ready to finance us. As soon as I'd like to break ground in February, early March. But there's some things we have to do. There's, obviously, there's it's on a ground lease, so KEDC has to approve us. The same scenario that we went through when we refinanced our buildings, 3 or 4 months ago. Same, we'll have to do the same thing to get, permission to build on lease land that's owned by KEDC.
Do you have I understand that what we're looking at now is your diagram. Have you got it where it's more defined? Or is this only replica you got right?
We've got fully designed construction plans that have been submitted as a permit.
Okay.
They're fully designed plans, engineered, civil engineered, mechanical, plumbing, full design.
So there is a blueprint.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been submitted to the city.
Can I get that when you have a chance? Thank you.
Yeah, 40 pages, 50 pages, maybe. Yeah. It's been submitted to the city, so it's public record.
It's not going to be available until it's actually approved, but once it's approved, we can release it.
What is he looking for from us tonight?
I just wanted him to come in and share what his vision is, what he's looking at, where he's at on financial status, a projected time, when we can start seeing some movement and start seeing the completion of the town center. And just an overall update of where we're at.
I don't mean to digress, but I want to go back to building one.
Sure.
Being that we own that building. And there's obviously structural issues and things just due to the age. And let's say we lose Dollar General for whatever reason that might be. What would be your thoughts with that building if there were going to be changes made from your perspective to the building to get the higher rent? What would that look like?
So the Dollar General side, the southern side of the building is a lot more structurally sound than where the Antique Mall is. The Antique Mall has had substantial settling. The floor drops probably 8 inches from front to back. It's caused all kind of structural issues on the back wall. That, the Dollar General side is, from what I can tell, they've obviously been in there for 20 years, so I haven't, done a thorough investigation, but that seems to be a little more stable on that side. If they leave, I'm quite confident we could probably release it for more money than they're paying now. But it's going to require, that's in terrible shape. It's got these 50-year-old lights in there. It's in terrible shape. So in order to get the rent, you're going to have to spend a couple $100,000.
Why don't we just tear it down? I'm sorry. I know that's probably not everyone's favorite thing because it does cost money, but that used to be an old Winn-Dixie. Actually, before then, it was a True Value hardware store.
Right.
And then it was made into a Winn-Dixie and they made the dip over there on the east side. And that's where all their product got delivered at. So that's probably what the settling is. That building was built in like I want to say the seventies,
Late sixties.
late sixties, early seventies. So it used to be a True Value hardware store, then it went to a Winn-Dixie, and then I do believe it sat vacant for, quite some time, and then Dollar General took over. I don't believe there's been any other businesses in it, but historical photos going back as far as I can remember, 1970s, it was a True Value hardware store. So you are accurate when you do say it is, substantially older. So what would be the thoughts of just tearing it down, re-leveling it, and then releasing it to probably the same people who are already there, except for Dollar General?
Well, you have lease obligations with the tenants that are in there, so you can't,
Yes.
you can't.
After their leases are over, don't renew any leases and then just tear it down after that. That would probably be until 2026, 27. But at the same time, it would probably be a better way to modernize the building and re-level it and, because of the settling ground.
This is just a thought, throw this out. Okay, he's putting another building in or whatever else, but make sure we've got that building all set and stable and we've got everything pretty well stable and everything. Then everything that you're proposing makes perfect sense. That way, we're not losing anything. And then basically we've got the income coming in from the other stuff. And that it's on. I'll talk louder. Okay, but we've got the income coming in from the other properties and everything else. And then what we can do is we can modernize that whole side right there. And if we do that, maybe we can make it look more in line with.
What I would say is, as these leases come up for renewal, that's your opportunity to make a decision to do something differently, renew them, not renew them. Let it sit vacant until all the tenants, so what you're gonna have to do is, as these tenants come up for renewal, and most of them have renewal options. So if they decide not to exercise a renewal option, you could not renew it. If that part of the building was sit vacant until the last tenant gets through their renewal options, which could be 10 years down the road. And then you're gonna need to spend $4 or $5 million to rebuild the building. $6, $7 million. That's a big building, 43,000 feet, $200 a foot, $8 million.
But for a building that is almost 60 years old, wouldn't it make more sense to just tear it down and rebuild it? Instead of trying to rehab it?
If it was sitting vacant today, that probably that would be the right thing to do. But if you've got tenants in there that we've signed leases on that have renewal options, you're obligated to wait till those renewal options expire. Which, each of them have at least one renewal option for 5 years.
So you're saying basically there's renewal options out for a renewal of 5 years.
I need to go back and look at each of the lease, but no one's going to sign a lease without a renewal option. I mean, you're never going to get a tenant in there.
So there's no stipulations in any of these leases for the tenants to maintain the building or update their exterior or interior of their buildings or anything?
The exterior of the building is the responsibility of the landlord. The interior of the building, they got to keep it up to code. I mean, the only option we have is when they renew, we can tell them we're not going to renew them, but Dollar General they have no more renewal options. So we finally have the hammer over them for the first time in 15 years. So we now have we could say, we're not going to renew you unless you do X, Y, and Z. They had 3 renewal options. They had a terrible, terrible lease. Their existing lease that they're on right now is a Dollar General friendly lease. We have no power over that, but when their lease expires, they have no more renewal options. So we now have the upper hand. So we can force them to do whatever they want or they're going to leave. I don't know how much sales tax revenue they generate, but that would be a loss, I would think. But Dollar General, I mean, they've been in there for a long time. I think we can force their hand to upgrade their, I mean, they do this all the time.
Is there a way to align the leases somewhere so we can find a point when we could accomplish what James is talking about?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
kind of end those all at the same time or
absolutely,
similar?
we can. Yep,
Okay,
you know, the challenge with that, especially with Dollar General, you say, all right, we need to go in there and spend $150,000, modernize your building. They're not going to sign a 3-year lease that's coterminous with, you know, the next door neighbor.
yeah, maybe we've made it this long with them. If it's a 3 years, to deal with them a little longer to get those aligned so we
Yeah,
can,
that's
I mean, it may be
mean,
worth it.
absolutely, that's an option. Sure, we do that all the time.
However, provide no option for renewal. No lease renewal.
I don't know if they would sign.
They wouldn't sign that with,
Sign it or they leave.
well, they're not going to spend a lot of money to upgrade without being able to stay long.
This is true.
So at their,
We can let them ride and, you know, do a 3-year lease or whatever.
so
Might be a possibility, but
give them a 3-year lease at their current standard, which is very substandard, very poor. And then just make sure that the lease is aligned with the other tenants until they all expire at exactly this, right moment with no lease renewal options and go from there.
Well,
that's,
Of course, that's something that we would have to talk about.
one of the things that jumps out to me is that, interstate project or whatever else is scheduled to be done roughly in about 5 years. So, we should be planning all this to come fruition roughly in about 5 years.
I know very little about commercial leasing, but is there options at some point to buy out their lease? Like if, I mean, is that even a thing?
um, is that a possibility? Yes. I mean, how expensive would that be? City electric supply would be pretty expensive. I think, maybe the antique mall would probably be open to that. I mean, they're not, City Electric Supply is $1 billion company with 500 locations. That's very profitable. I'm sure it would take a lot of money to buy them out. E-Tron, small private company, probably, I mean, is that yeah, is that a possibility? Yes, the answer is that.
Or if we have other spaces, there's, I mean, if somebody needs just like this company that you're saying has wants to, they want to stay around, maybe another location or maybe work out them to be in one of these other buildings or something, some way we can clear that building out and either tear it down or redo it or however, whatever it takes to get it useful. I mean,
Well, we're going off on a weird location. Let's get back on the, keep Mr. Hughes here for something that don't
Well,
really.
Just keep in
Hey.
mind that building's debt free and it's generating, we write.
Exactly
we
what I
write
was
you guys
about to
a check
bring
for
up.
20 grand a month. Every
Look over here and look at your loan, how much money y'all owe, how much money the city owes. 80 to 90% of that money owed was for that ground over there. You cannot generate money to pay your loans off with no building over there. You have to come up with a source of income. And when you couldn't actually ever get the city council to approve to tear that down and add a double your debt and get you back into the +$1 million debt.
trillion.
And if the
Triple
building
debt.
got rebuilt, it would be up to Hughes Corporation or it'd be up to y'all's corporation to build the building
Well, where
if
you-
it ever got built again.
well, I mean, we'd love to do that for you, but we're your hired real estate consultant. I mean,
But if that building got tore down, I think if you check that lease, we own that building and the ground underneath it. But we don't own any other, we have no, we don't plan on building any buildings. That's why we have y'all.
right. Right.
And that's why the original town center was designed and set up for a developer to come in here and everything ground up goes to developer.
Well, we're,
Well,
at the end of the day, we're gonna spend about $15 million
Exactly.
on all the buildings.
well, I'm gonna go back 3, 4, or 5 months, something like that. I don't remember exactly how long. At one point in time, we talked about it, some point in time, those involved needed to sit down and redo this master plan for this place. This is all master planning type stuff, what if, what if, what if? And, realistically, we are getting ahead of ourselves.
Exactly.
If we don't have a master plan, it says this is what we're gonna do.
The only thing, there is one thing that they did bring up, and it will be for future leases. All the board members will like all future leases, if we can put into the contract that they will be open to public retail, because E-Tron isn't really open to public. There's nothing we can do about it till their lease is up. But if they leave and somebody else comes up, we would like to make sure that's added into the lease clause. And that would not allow any pack and ship places to come in there.
Understood.
And that's but that's only if somebody moves out,
Yeah,
because they're, E-Tron, they're up for, they got till 26 just on their current lease, correct?
I should have brought the rent roll. I mean, they signed
I
a
believe that's
5-year
what I read.
lease.
And so nothing could be changed till then.
Right. Yeah, and they said the whole reason they wanted to move in there was to have retail sales, and they never did it. And,
No, but I did not see in the lease that it was mandatory.
right,
So if it wasn't, if we make it a mandatory in the lease, then it can't ever come up that people get it and just for the
right.
ground ship only. The packet,
Yeah. Yeah, we could, I mean, you're the landlord, you can dictate what you want.
I'm sure all yours have got that in there. You're not, if you want somebody in there,
Well, we approve the use. We don't really, I mean, we want somebody that's viable that could pay the rent, that's conducive. I mean, we've got people all the time, the vape shops, and that's just not a tenant we want. I mean, it's allowable. We can do it. It's legal, but we're just not gonna, that's not a tenant I want in the building. So we use our discretion, but if they pay the rent, they're a legitimate company, a family-friendly, generally company. That's what we're looking for. I mean, our interests are aligned. I don't want some problem tenant in the middle of the building that I've got we made a mistake with a tenant in one of my other retail buildings. They cause problems or out, it just cause problems. I don't want to go into it, but we learned our lesson. There's just certain tenants you don't want. They cause problems. It's not worth it. I don't care whether they pay the rent or not. And
how are your tenants you have now? Everything's going good?
we didn't lose a single tenant to COVID. And that's that's something in retail. We were nervous. I mean, we had some tenants that said we can't pay rent, so we had to bite the bullet for 3 months when the government shut them down and said you can't open. We weathered that, there's nothing we can do.
So the barbecue place is now back open. I think, did I see a sign saying they're open again?
They're back open.
Good.
Thank God, under new management.
And that's going good?
That's going good.
Better food than what it was, the other one was, or have you been in
I
there?
have not been in there yet, but she's also a tenant.
is
She's
better.
also the
Yeah.
tenant that opened up
Right.
the Chic Spot
Okay.
Event Center.
Uh,
And they
You're
seem to
referring
be
to
doing
Dickies?
well.
yeah,
Dickies?
yeah, Chief and I have been in there. The food is a lot better,
Yeah. Very
Great.
better.
immensely better.
Absolutely.
Oh, really? That's good.
They were
Yeah,
dancing
might
on
try there
Saturday.
again.
Have y'all been to Simple Simons?
For what?
Yeah, we're happy. They're doing well. Have you been into Mr. Wally's Pickles?
Their fryers were down.
Yeah, I bought about 6 quarts so far.
Is that?
So I bought, they had these little packages, a three jar package as a gift, and I sent about 30 of them to various clients. So they were all very happy. So
Not just selling retail pickles or?
No,
what do sell?
they literally are made on site.
yeah, it's
Yes. They're
Kitchen.
really good. If you like pickles, they're
it's
good quality pickles.
all vegetables. broccoli, carrots, asparagus, cauliflower.
And be careful with their hot pickles. Because they can be very.
It was a pretty big hit. I said it, like I said, I said it as a Thanksgiving
eyes
gift to about 30 clients and well received. Great people, by the way, family.
I got a couple more questions for you.
Sure,
With the lease, or not necessarily with lease, the contract we have for the buildings itself in town center, there are some restrictions on what the buildings can look like.
right.
So prior to any of the construction or anything, we need to make sure we sit down and we go over exactly
Yes,
what
sir.
those are.
Yes, sir.
That way we can get them approved through the EDC. They are aware that you was wanting to make some adjustments to it. And I want to say everybody's in agreement with it. We're okay with it. However, we still have to look at the contract and make adjustmants to that.
Absolutely.
That way legally you're covered, and obviously
Yeah,
we are
we're-
as
we're-
well.
Very well of that and appreciate that and
Okay.
appreciate your working with us. Yeah, we'd like to modify it, of course, but
Yeah, and I, like I said, we have already discussed it several times, but unless there's objection of it, just make sure we get together and that way
absolutely.
we can present it on a legal basis and
Sure.
get it signed off.
Yeah, you and I talked about that and we're totally on board.
Okay. One other one, I received a notice. I sent you an email.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with you all. So that's called a Texas Accessibility Standard deal. So when we built the building, the shell building, there's no finish out. So it was inappropriate. It was not inappropriate. It was not, there was nothing there to dictate what the Texas accessibility standards would be, because we don't know what the tenants are in there. And so they thought the building was a finished building. It was a shell building. And so they sent that out of the blue. They sent that and said, you know, you're 3 years late on your accessibility standard. Well, as you all know, we just finished the building, so it's just now time. So we've got our architect addressing that.
Well,
That
the
has
one-
nothing to do with.
The one I'm
EDC.
talking about is coming back to our building, the city's building or EDC building.
So that's building 6.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's our building. I don't know why you got that. That's addressed, it should have been addressed to me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take another look at it. For some reason, I was looking at it as being our building,
No,
but
sir.
it could have been.
Yeah, it's building 6.
Okay.
A building 6 is the. So when you build a building, you have to have what's called a TAS review, a Texas Accessibility Standards Review, to make sure you're all ADA compliant and all your ingresses and egresses out of each building is, you know, according to, you know, accessibility standards. Well, it's a shell building. And so, you know, that thing sat vacant for way too long. And so it's not, you don't have a building to assess. You don't have a business in there to assess if we built it to those standards. And so they thought the building was built in 2017 when we finished it. And they came back at us just out of the blue a month ago or a couple of weeks ago and said, you're 3 years late on getting your task review done. Well, they just had bad information. We just finished the building, so now it's appropriate to have that review, and we're in that process. But that's building 6.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, we're probably about to wrap up the meeting as a whole, but if you would hang around a couple of minutes, let me just confirm it with the paperwork. If you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
Anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Council member.
All right, we have nothing to discuss in an executive session at the present time. We need a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second. Take it.
Thank you all for showing up. Rosie?